tutorial. Today we are going to be talking about tags and attributes. From our previous class, we already know what tags are. We know that tags are like instructions to create elements. This element in context of our web page means part of our web page. For example, if we want to have a button on our web page, to create it, we use the button tag. So we are going to be using as many tags as we can, and we're also going to be taking a quick look into what attributes are. So first thing first, we've already created our HTML file. The next thing to do is to create our document structure. From our last class, you should already know how to create your document structure. So first of all, we get the doc type. The doc type does not have a closing tag, which makes it a void tag. Then the next, we need the HTML tag. It's like a frame holding the whole thing. Then inside the HTML tag, we have the head, and then we also have the body, which is where we are going to be putting all the content on our page. So right now I can also decide to change the title, maybe to HTML class. So now, as I said earlier, we're going to be taking a look into as many tags as possible. So just a quick revision. We've talked about the H1 to H6 tag. We already know what they are used for. We've talked about the paragraph tag, which is used for creating a paragraph. We've talked about the break tag, which is used for breaking a particular line, breaking into another line. Like you can see, this is the break tag. We use it to break into another line. We've talked about the button tag, used for creating a button. So let's save this and kind of run this code and see what it does. So we are going to copy part. So we want to run this code in our browser. So now I need to show my browser where the file I wish to run is. So you can see the output of all these tags that we've used. As I said, that these tags are instructions to create elements. So right now, let's see other tags that are also useful. So now the first tag we're going to be taking a look at is the list tag. So now to create a list in your web page, you use the list tag. There are two types of lists. We have the ordered list and we have the unordered list. The ordered list is the type of list that keep track of how many items are in it, while the unordered list is just a normal list with just bulletin. So now to create the ordered list, we use the OL tag. OL tag. So right now we need to add a list item. So let's say I'm creating a list of things I see in my class or in a classroom. Maybe I might see something like chair. Uh, as many list item as I want. I can see something like table. I can add as many as I want. I can see something like pen. So I can save that. When I reload my browser, you can see I have an ordered list. I'm able to keep track of how many items are here. I know there are 3 items. You can see it being numbered. So the second type of list is the unordered list denoted by the UL tag. So I'm gonna go UL. So now we can add a list item. Let's say I'm making a list of things in my room. I can have a bed there. This item. I can have a chair. etc. There are many things in my room. So Let's just proceed. You see the difference? This one there is no numbering, but in this one the items are actually numbered. So I hope you're seeing the different type of tag. We've talked about the list tag. The list tag is very easy to use. You just need to know which one you actually want to use, whether it's the ordered or it's the unordered. So now let's talk about segmentation tags. So segmentation tags are any tag that are used to divide our web page into sections. These tags create boxes. This tag, example of this tag is the div. We have the div tag. Okay, you have the div tag. This is the most used segmentation tag we have. These tags create boxes. I can add things inside there, which we just create a box around it. We have the main tag. We have the header tag. Header. We have the footer tag. This header and the footer usually mainly used to create the header of our web page and the footer of our web page. The main is usually used to, box the content on our page. So we have something like the article, we have section, and many others. So there are many segmentation tags, but these are just the ones that are most used. So these are the one I'm going to list. All these tags, the only thing they do is that they create boxes. They create boxes which we can model into to look the way that we want them to look with our CSS. So we've talked about the list tag, how to create a list, and we've talked about the segmentation tags. So before we proceed with talking about more tags, I want us to take a quick look into attributes. So let's try to understand what attributes are. So attributes are more like extra information given to the tag. We already know that the tag already creates the element, like the tag is an instruction to create an element. We can add extra information to that instruction. So now we know what the h1 tag does. It's going to make this text here to be bigger, but I can use an attribute to actually extend what I like, the instruction that I actually gave. So now how to actually write an attribute? So now it's very simple. You have to do it in the opening tag. So now you come to the opening tag, you give space from the main tag itself. Like this is a h1 tag, this is a p tag. So if I want to add an attribute, I have to give space from the main tag. So you give space from the main tag. So now, what attributes do you want to add? Right now, I'm going to add the style attribute. The style attribute is an attribute that enable us to write CSS in our HTML file. So right now, just don't bother yourself about the code I'm going to write. We are going to explain it when we get to CSS. But right now, just so you see the output of what I'm saying. So let me say now I want the color to be blue. Right now, let me just use the color name, the normal color name. You can like maybe change it to a hash code. So I just need to save this. So when I run it, you can see now the color of this h1 is blue. I asked my web browser to actually create this h1 element, and it created this h1 element, but using attributes I extended the information. I asked it to actually um make the color blue. Am I kind of making sense? That is what attributes are. So there are different type of attributes for different purposes that are used for different purposes. We have another attribute called class. This class usually we use it to give like a second name to our element. For example, I can have two h1 on my page and I want to give a specific name to this h1 so I can be able to style it in my CSS. Because to be able to style an element in your CSS, you need to actually call that element. So now we can use the class attribute to actually give like a second name to that element. Maybe I want this to be my page title. So Now, whenever I refer to page title, maybe for my CSS or for my JavaScript, I'm referring to this element here. So that is what the class um, attribute is used for. We also have the ID. So you see, we can add as many as we want. And notice something about the attributes. Most attributes are always equals to something. There are some attributes that are not equals to something, but most attributes are usually equals to something. So now we have something like the ID. The ID does same work as the class. Just give like a second name so we can be able to address that element with that name. So with that being said, there are certain tags that actually need element to actually work. Sorry, there are certain tags that need certain attributes to work. If without this attribute, they cannot work. So one example of that this type of tag is the image tag. So now the image tag is very easy. The image tag is how we load images into our web page. You go to website and you see images on their web page. We load those images from using the image tag. So now this is the image tag. It's a void tag. It does not need a closing tag. So now this image tag is not complete without adding two attributes. It's not going to work if we don't add those two attributes. The first one is the source attribute and the second one is the alternative attribute. The source attribute help us to get the path to a particular file we want to display. I told you something before our computer is able to run any file or actually give an output from any file, it needs to know the location of that file. So before we are able to actually display an image on our web page, we need to know the location of that image. And that is what we do using the source attribute. Now the alternative attribute is used to give like a second option in case our browser cannot locate that image, or maybe that image at that time does not exist. We need to have like a second option where we kind of maybe we tell our users that the image is not available at this time or something like that, or cannot locate image. I don't know, like the alternative just provide an alternative option in case our browser cannot locate the image. So now to add the image, as I said, first we use the source attribute. So the source attribute we use src, src short for source. So now we need to get the path to the image. So right now there's no image in this folder, so I'm going to get an image and paste it here. So let me go to my images folder. I think I should have images there. So okay, I have a lot to work with. So let me just get this one. So I will copy this. So I'll go paste it in the folder that I'm working on. I'm working on the web development class folder, the folder I created. So maybe I can create a new folder, name the folder images, and then I can paste it in here. So when I can see I have that image here. So now I need to load the image into my web page. So right now what I need to do is to get the path to this image. But getting the path to this image on the long run is not the best practice, because the purpose of creating every web page on your system is to actually host it. If I should just copy the path to this image, it's still going to work. If I just copy the path and paste it here, when I save and when I run it, I still see the image. But this is not the best practice. So now the best practice is to actually get the path to the image from the file you are working on. So right now I'm working on my index file. So to get the path to the image which I want, first of all I'm going to click a dot, then slash. Now VS Code is already helping me with autocomplete. So now I can see this dot mean I want the file I'm looking for, or the folder I'm looking for, it's actually in the same directory as the file I'm working on. That's what this dot mean. If I use double dot and put a slash, it means move out of the folder that I'm working in outside. The file I'm looking for is actually outside this folder I'm working in. So all these things you see are files that are outside this web development class folder. But if I use one dot, I'm telling I want you to check this folder that I'm in. So now I want to go into my images folder. Then inside my images folder, I have this image that I want to use. So right now, if I still rerun this, it's the same output. So you can see this is the best practice, the best way to do it. So now I told you there is also another attribute needed here, which is the alternative. The alternative alt, short for alternative. So now we need to write an alternative option for our browser. So now let's say I want to say error image not found. So let me just mess the part to this image. So right now there's no image named this in this particular location. So our browser will not be able to locate this image. So let's save it. Let's see the alternative in action. So when I run it, you see my browser is using the alternative error. This image cannot be found. So but if the path is good, if the browser can actually locate that image, there will be no need for the alternative. So are we flowing? The next tag that I'm going to talk about is the anchor tag. The anchor tag helps us to create more like a navigation through our website. You've been on visited website before, and when you click on a particular on a particular nav, it takes you to the next page. We achieve that using the anchor tag. The anchor tag works like the hyperlink in uh Microsoft Word. So now to use the anchor tag, we just need to have an A. So now let's say I want this to say click. So right now this anchor tag, if I should run this, it looks just like every normal tag, like any normal text on our page. There's nothing different. But if I actually want this to work, I have to add the href attribute. href attribute. The href attribute does almost same thing as the source. Both of them are used to actually get the path to a particular file. So right now let me create like a second page, not in here. So now this page, let's say this page is the about us page, about us dot html. Remember to add your extension. So now, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to link this just like the way I taught you. I just explained. We go one dot, meaning that the file I'm looking for is inside this folder. So I'll go slash. So the file I'm looking for is this about us. So now when I save this, let me just add content here. So let me put a h1 tag here and that say hello. So let me save it. And then when I reload, you can see the change showing that this is now an anchor tag. So when I click on it, you see we go to the about us page. When I click on this, we go to the about us page. So that other element, sorry, that other attribute that actually works with the button tag, sorry, with the anchor tag, just like the target. So that there are certain you can take your time to actually check all of them, but for the sake of our time in this class, let's just proceed. So now I've talked about the anchor tag. The next tag we're going to talk about is the image tag. So now rather next tag we're going to talk about is the input tag. The input tag is used to create an input. So now as you can see, the input tag comes with some attributes. So now for now, let's just see how the input tag looks. Let me go back when I reload. Now you can see I've created an input where I can type whatever I want to type. So now, but this input is not officially complete without certain attribute. So the first one we are going to talk about is the placeholder attribute. So now the placeholder creates a placeholder. Let's say this is for our name. So I'll say enter name. So when I save this and reload, I'm going to see enter name here. So when I start typing, it disappears. Just a placeholder. The next one we're going to talk about is the type. Inputs have different types. So we have inputs that by default every input is a check like is text. This is by default every input is text. So when I save this, you see it's just the same thing, no difference. But there are other types. For example, we have the number when we want this input to only take numbers. So now when I reload my page, now you see I cannot type any alphabet, only numbers. I cannot type any alphabet, only numbers. So there are different types. We have the checkbox. The checkbox creates a checkbox. You can check and uncheck. So the other we have date and time. You can use them to set date, date time. So when I will load, okay, there's a mistake. Okay. So this input will record the date. I can make another one for time, so on. So there are different type of inputs. We have an input for your password. So the type will be password. So now when I'm typing, you see the what I'm typing is being hashed so that no other person can be able to see it. We have different type of input. In your leisure, I would like you to take your time and go over all of them. Try to know as many type of input as possible. So for the purpose of this class, this is where we'll be ending the class. Today we've been able to talk about the different tags that we have, talk about segmentation tags, talk about how to create a list tag, talk about the image tag, talk about the anchor tag, and talk about the input tag. So for now, this is where we are going to draw the curtain. And join us in our next class where we take a quick intro into CSS and start creating real life websites. Thank you for watching. See you next time.